guy who resigned, he is a BDSM Satan worshiper. You look on his Facebook post, you'll see that. He does not need to be in charge of the vaccine program at CDC. He should have been fired long ago.
So that is Representative Buddy Carter, who wants you to believe that no, the CDC chaos is not a big issue. And the fact that so many of the top people have either been fired or stormed out in protest and they're not working there anymore, it's not an issue because one of them never should have been there because he's gay. And that's really scary and upsetting. So it's probably fine that the government agency that is best equipped and tasked with making sure that we all stay safe when the worst sorts of diseases are rampaging across America is now just in utter turmoil and chaos. Don't worry about it. Focus on the gay people. Again, as we always say, nobody does identity politics as viciously or constantly as the Republican Party. But what they're referring to there is this one guy in charge of infectious disease who has posted things online that are risque, and we'll get to those. But exactly what the connection is supposed to be between that and being capable of doing your job, I don't know what their argument is because they're not making an actual argument. And I would also point out, RFK Jr., so far as I know, is not gay, is not into BDSM, doesn't worship Satan, and he doesn't have any goddamn idea how science or medicine works. So maybe we should go with the Satanists because they seem to have a better handle on this thing. Donald Trump, super straight. He doesn't understand how anything works. So the link is not as clear as they might want it to seem. But it isn't just Buddy Carter that's participating in this attempt to reframe the narrative of the chaos in the CDC. Senator Rand Paul had this to say. One of the guys that is the biggest proponent of doing all this is the guy who describes the risky behavior that he and his lifestyle involve. He should have never had a position in government. And he brags about his lifestyle, this whole idea of bondage and multiple partners and all that stuff. He brags about that stuff, but he's got no business being in government. It's good riddance. Again, it's not like all this stuff was discovered and then he was fired as a result of it. The dude left because of his integrity and his belief that staying on the CDC would be falsely implying that it's a place where serious scientists are listened to, and it's not, so he left. So on the way out, them being like, no, you can't quit, you're fired for gay. That just seems really petty, even for them. It doesn't make any sense. Now, Daskalakis, who's a guy, he's the infectious disease guy. We've talked about him previously on the show. He has posted things like back during the monkeypox outbreak, he posted a tweet from the gay sex app Grindr that stated, Dr. Daskalakis could jab me any day. And he was also seen using male models wearing leather bondage straps to make an entrance at an HIV prevention summit. So that's the evidence that they're referring to. And it's not nearly as compelling as they would have you believe. And some would say that since monkeypox primarily affected men who have sex with men, trying to communicate with them in a viral sort of meme way might not be the worst idea, actually. So that's lost on them. And I understand why they would be sensitive, Sharon, about Daskalakis being on Grindr, okay? Sorry, not him being on Grindr, so many Republican men are, but him revealing that he's on Grindr, that's not allowed. It's supposed to be a secret thing. But anyway, so my bigger issue is that the CDC effectively doesn't exist anymore. By the way, you can't get the COVID vaccine anymore. Did you know that? Like they took it away from kids, and now just in general, unless you're high risk or over 65, you can't get it anymore, based on nothing. No new science that it's dangerous or anything. You just cannot have that protection. Make America healthy again. What do you think?
More stupidity. So what? Is RFK Jr. over 65? He gets it, Trump gets it, okay? And the rest of us, what? We have to beg for some kind of prescription to get the COVID vaccine. Look, at this Grindr thing and sense of humor that maybe you share or don't is disqualifying to this infectious disease expert, then what about the head? The head of Health and Human Services Secretary? What is Kennedy? Whatever. The point is,
Health and Human
what
Services,
about his transgressions? I mean, I'm looking at a BBC site that reminds us that he apologized for groping a babysitter. I don't have any recollection. If I hurt you, it was inadvertent. How do you inadvertently grope a woman to the point where she remembers it fully in detail, giving details to Vanity Fair about how this affected her life? I mean, why is the standard for the guy at the top like it's in the sewer? And yet the people who have kept us safe, last time I checked, if someone who's gay is helping give us a vaccine, is helping to figure out how to get it out quickly to save people, I think that's a hero. Who cares about this grinder thing except for the people who are on it and care about it?
Exactly. All of it is resting on, well, gay people are gross and terrible and they shouldn't exist in public life. That's all it is. This feels like very like, I don't know, 2005, where Rand Paul's like, we can just go back to doing that, right? I don't have to make an argument. I can just be like, that guy's gay. Get him out of here. Meanwhile, RFK Jr. is swimming in sewage water. He's having affairs with reporters. He has like a journal of all of the women he cheated on his wife with. So is that not multiple partners, Representative? Or is it the fact that they were women that it doesn't matter, that he's sleeping around? Again, he doesn't know anything about medicine or science or whatever. This guy's been a doctor studying infectious disease for literally decades at this point. Again, this is what identity politics does to these people. Their brains don't function right. Anyway, we're gonna jump ahead to one more graphic, graphic 5. So here is where grants, so they try to cancel all the CDC funding or whatever. And blue states challenge the cutting of the funding. Red states don't care because they also don't believe in science. And fighting against all the blue state lawsuits would be difficult and costly, and they'd probably lose a lot of them. So in some cases, they're not really fighting against it. And so the blue state funding is coming back, which means that in effect, as they try to cut the funding across blue and red states, it just goes to the blue states instead of the red. So you can see the top line is grants that were intended for termination. It was 40% blue, 43% red. At the end, which ones were actually terminated was only 16% blue, 77% red. So the money is still, I mean, some of it's gonna be cut everywhere. Again, this is an anti-science administration. But in the end, MAGA is just hurting themselves. Like they got this guy in because they wanted to be made healthy again. Instead, they're gonna be less well protected against infectious disease. It's absolutely self-destructive and so goddamn stupid. Anyway, I would still, by the way, really like to get Daskalakis on this show, maybe to respond to some of this, talk about what he thinks will happen with the CDC.
If you enjoyed that, then make sure that you never miss another video by subscribing. And if you want a little more, consider hitting the join button and becoming a member. So you're probably wondering, why would I do that? Well, when you do that, you get access to bonus content that I make every single week, and it's a lot of fun. You get custom emojis and more. If you join at tier 3, by the way, you even get access to a monthly member hangout with myself. And you'll get all that going forward, but you'll also unlock years of the back catalog that is literally 100 or more bonus clips and top 10 lists and debates and more. So what are you waiting for?